Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I'm Dylan. I'm your host back on the mics. It feels like it's been forever between travel and sickness and everything else that's been going on. But Matt, how are you doing, my blue collar badass?
Doing good, man. Yeah, it's been 3 or 4 weeks, I think, since we got on the same podcast episode, but it's good to be back.
Yeah, for sure. Well, guys, as you saw, because you guys can read, we have two awesome guests joining us today. So without further ado, I'm going to get right into it. And we have Brex Enterprises co-founders Alicia and AJ. And Brex is a women-owned certified construction company outside of Pittsburgh, which is awesome. It's a great city to be in, which we'll get into. But Alicia and AJ started it just over 10 years ago, and they're sitting at around 50 employees today, which is pretty awesome. That's a fantastic size company. And they started as a pipeline maintenance company and since moved into site development, utility work, and they value their culture of and employee development and continue to find ways to celebrate their employees. Uh, you guys find ways to stay busy, especially with five kids under nine, and then both launched basically two side hustles, right? You've got boss side hustles and then AJ for a day in mentoring and all that kind of good stuff. But and then plus, which this is pretty cool too. You guys breed Scottish Highland cows and Great Pyrenees livestock guarding dogs. Is there anything like huge that I missed in this massive list of things that you guys are up to? Like, running a basketball team or something else on the side here?
No, I gave up my coaching career probably 2 years ago. I did coach a wrestling team until 2 years ago.
High school wrestling. So it wasn't even just like little kids, which he does now, but yeah, high school sports.
Yeah, I did give that up though. That was like that was like the backbreaker, was the fifth kid. So
I can imagine. I've got three kids of my own, 16, 13, and almost 10, but man, it sounds like you guys have a ton of free time. So what you must be getting bored there in Pennsylvania.
really bored.
Well, let's jump right in and we'll talk the construction side first because that's kind of what the show's about. But we are going to definitely get into these hairy, weird looking cows that you guys have that I had to Google to see what they were. But we'll pause that for a little bit. So let's talk about Brex Enterprises. How did you get your start in the industry? You started the company together, I believe, 10 years ago. Or why don't you give us a little backstory on that?
I'll let Alicia do it.
Okay. So we, right out of college, I had a job as a mechanical engineer. He had worked construction his whole life. So I think you're like fifth generation construction. So there's a lot of histories of uncles and grandfathers and
Great grandfathers,
great grandparent generation of different types of construction. And so when we got out of school, it was like, hey, what are we doing? What are we going to do? And he went to work for an uncle, and through his uncle got contracted out to a pipeline company. And through there, they just started saying, well, hey, why don't you do this on your own? Why don't you add a crew doing this and this and this and this? And so luckily we were very lucky to come out of school and hit some very organic growth in our company. And it wasn't always easy, but the first 2 years of business, I still had my full-time job, and he was actually living the pipeline lifestyle, which is in a camper on the other side of the state, where he would stay 3 weeks there, come home for a weekend, go 3 weeks back. And so that's the first 2 years of our business in the pipeline industry. And so from there, just through the type of equipment we've been asked for projects on the pipeline side, we've naturally transitioned into more sewer utility, that type work.
So where do you guys kind of focus on nowadays? Is it commercial industrial construction, or is it strictly underground, or what do you really specialize in?
I would say I wouldn't say so we kind of have, at this point, have broke the company up into almost departments. I would say it's the best way to put it. We still have a very active right away maintenance division of our company where we do things such as like mow the right of way. So like if you're driving down the road and you see the pipeline or power line where it comes across the road,
Yeah.
we'll mow those right of ways for their entirities. That's a regulated thing. So basically that part of our work's all government regulated. So it's pretty consistent. So we kind of keep that as like a back pocket kind of thing. And then the pipeline industry, we don't necessarily do a whole lot as far as construction goes. We do a lot more as far as integrity and support goes. We do stuff such as integrity digs. So if they find a defect in the pipe in a certain location, we may go and dig it up and do whatever it takes to repair it. And then we also have the long wall support, where basically, long story short, is a coal mine comes underneath the pipelines, and we expose the pipelines for the length of that system, because when the coal mine comes under, they actually collapse it behind them. So the ground actually drops away. The best way to describe it would be, every day they might move 15-20 feet and the ground might drop 3 to 4 feet in that 15-20 feet. So the elevation actually changes of the ground. So what we do is we actually expose the pipe, so when the ground drops away, there's no weight on top of it to cause stress in the pipe. So that's the pipeline side and the maintenance side. And then we also have, I would say it's pretty much just commercial development side and heavy earthworks. And that's where the big excavators and sewer lines and the stuff that you guys are more familiar with, I would say, comes into play. We just started doing that again. What would you say, Alicia, about 3 years ago?
Yeah, typically we've always been like 75% pipeline driven revenue. I think this year is the first year we're swapping it. So we'll probably be at about 25% pipeline, and the rest makes up that municipality development, private work.
So you guys are touching everything. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You're right in your assessment there, AJ. I know absolutely nothing about pipeline construction whatsoever, but what you were saying is really intriguing. So the coal mines go underneath your lines or the pipes, right? And they're dropping 3 or 4 feet. So are they shoring those pipes up as they go and they keep digging? Is that how that works, or?
So yeah, we actually will let the pipe. So we have strain gauges that are installed on the pipe. So every 50 or 100 feet, there's a actual sensor that transmits a signal to a satellite. So remotely, we monitor how much stress is on the pipe as the coal mine is coming underneath. And a lot of the times we can just kind of let the pipe fall as the ground falls. So it'll just kind of fall naturally to its least stressful position. There are times that we have to go in and use airbags or sandbags to support the pipe and give it time to flex down to so that the pipe doesn't come apart. That's not very common, but it does happen from time to time.
Wow, it's way out of my realm. That's cool.
Yeah. The coolest part is actually the pipelines never shut down. They stay 100% active at full capacity the entire time we're doing it.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Yeah, so that's kind of how our leap from mowing. So we always started out mowing, and then went from the mowing to that type of work. So that was a big nervous leap. And then from there, it seems like all the dirt side of it has come pretty naturally after being able to expose, what diameter?
30-inch, 24-inch.
So live line. So after that, it's kind of transitioned nicely into.
Everything else is a lot easier.
Absolutely. A lot less risk.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, that's one thing to hit on for our listeners is, I think everybody forgets that Pennsylvania in general has a ton of oil and gas industry in it and a lot of pipeline. So that's one thing to like really hit on. And then I've got a couple questions out of here. One is going to be, do you guys go outside of Pennsylvania, or is your work mostly around Pennsylvania? Let's just answer that first. But
I'd say pipeline is definitely West Virginia driven. So most of our pipeline work is in West Virginia. And when you're looking at that type of work, landslide, repair, that type of stuff, West Virginia, Ohio. And then it seems we like to stay as close to home then on the other side. So all the dirt work, that side.
Sure. And then in the pipeline stuff and really on the coal mine piece of it, for like when they go and push through like for the mine, yeah, like are the tunnels they doing like, one, how big are they, and are they always going like across the pipeline to where like the pipe's not running parallel to where they're digging, right? It's usually like the mine just comes under it, so there's what's that span look like that you're trying to deal with?
So it depends on the how the mine's hitting the line. So sometimes it may run parallel with it. When it runs parallel with it, it's actually worse because every day it has more of a shear point. A lot of the times, the way that it's just kind of designed, they usually hit on an angle. The best way to describe it is, so there'll be one tunnel that they leave open, just like like back in the old days where, you think of a coal mine, you think of a 10-foot by 10-foot, hole that kind of goes underground and all the coal miners walk around under there. They still have that still is there, but the way that the mining machine works is it's really wide. They can make it as wide as they want. They can make it 2,000 feet wide. They can make it 100 feet wide. It doesn't really matter. They just keep pushing. They put pieces of the mining machine in, and then they just keep pushing it wider. So as the mining machine is like say the tunnel is running parallel, the mine runs parallel with it, and the mining machine just augers the coal into the tunnel, which is then basically belted out of the mine from there. And then the coal that they're augering out, as that machine moves forward, it actually just lets the roof of the mine collapse behind it next to the tunnel.
On
So
like the
basically,
side chutes and everything, or they're
yes,
just collapsing with the main tunnel.
the main
That
tunnel
integrity
remains.
is solid,
Yes,
and then all the side chutes where it augers just collapses.
exactly. Yep. And then it just falls behind the mining machine. But basically, we get a map that shows us, okay, this is where our extraction tunnels are going to be, and this is where our mining area is going to be. And then they set, exposure points, like from there. That's how we set like how long a pipe we have to expose. I'd say on average for 3 months, we'll expose 3,000 to 4,000 feet of pipeline. So that'll be like our every phase, I guess you would call it. We'll expose about anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 feet for 4 months, and then after that is done, then we have to have the next section exposed before they reset the mine. So basically, they'll do the one side of the tunnel, they'll reset the mine, go to the other side of the tunnel, do that, and then they'll have to move to another tunnel to reset the whole machine. So it's pretty complicated, but once you see it, you'd understand it.
And so we don't do anything on that side of it. We're all the strictly.
We're just the support end of it, so they contact us and they say, okay, the longwall is going to hit March 2024. How much is it going to cost us to get this exposed and to support it? And then once everything settles out and all of our strain gauges say, that everything is settled out, we backfill the line and like we were never there.
Well,
it's cool. It's just not something that you hear every day, right? Like it's a super fascinating for people that are not in the mining or coal industry to, to think about like all the stuff above the mine as they're cutting, underground, right? It like, and then
the houses and everything move.
Yeah, like it's just
Wow.
you know, insane in the operation, right? And putting power to it and a lot of that stuff. Like one of our past guests, Justin Tidd, does a lot of stuff for Becker, where well, he's their chief marketing and sales officer for Becker, which they do a lot of work in mining operations and for the long wall to supply all the power equipment that does move for the mining machines and equipment. So it's like a really fascinating industry. But what's the depth that like most of these pipelines sit at, just to give like that context for depth, and then we'll
Uh,
move off of mining, I swear. But
our standard, I'd say our standard lines are probably anywhere from 7 to 15 feet deep.
okay,
So, but the big lines usually are deeper, just
Sure.
the way the hills lie. The one that we're working on right now is it's about, I'd say about 10 feet. It's a lot of
So
material to move.
the three of you just single-handedly like exploded my mental picture of what mining is. I listened to a lot of Tyler Childers, right? And I was still seeing like dudes with the pitchforks and the canary. So I gotta get my head around that one. But
You have to
while I'm
look
doing
up-
that, like, what was that?
You'll have to look up longwall mining on YouTube. It's really fascinating.
It sounds like it. So how long is your typical project? Like, are you just on call for the entire time this mine's in action, or is there like a typical duration?
Pretty much the whole time that the mine's underneath of us, we're on call for
Yeah, but to expose,
to expose it. I'd say that from beginning to end of project, I'd say it's probably 2 to 3 months to expose it, and then another month to 2 months to backfill it. So basically about 5 months.
Okay.
and then you don't get retention until the grass grows a year later.
Well, yeah.
That's the part that she loves.
That's not my favorite part.
That's nobody's favorite part. I'm a GC and it's not my favorite part either. I still hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we talked pipe stuff, and that's fascinating. I got some YouTube time ahead of me, but let's talk about your dirt work company, your earthwork and your civil side. What kind of projects are you guys seeing these days?
We have a pretty wide array. We are working on a hospital project right now. We just did a big expansion on a hospital, where we had to excavate out the main portion of the project. There was a 780 feet long wall, about 16 feet high, that we had to install so that they could expand the hospital to support basically the need for the area here. So that's one big project we have going. We have another project. We're actually building a football stadium
Nice.
for a high school, for a
Very
local
cool.
high school. That's also another pretty big project.
I would say just within the last year, the workload has shifted from us being a GC on, municipality type jobs to now that we're in as a subcontractor. So we're in there as the excavation site work subcontractor. So that's
Yeah.
definitely been a transition for us, but I feel like we probably bid to GCs for like 2 years before, a GC was like, okay, we'll use you guys. And now it just seemed to like take off, and, we got we got a good group of partnerships going. So that
Yeah.
a lot of the site work for any type of project like that.
Yeah, and we still have like government stuff going too sometimes. So we'll do some utility work, government work.
Army Corps, DEP.
Yeah, Army Corps and DEP, and waterline work. This was still for another GC doing some waterline work for them. So it's kind of all working hand in hand on that side. But I mean, we do jobs as small as a couple $100,000 to, a couple $1 million too. So we have a pretty wide array.
So Alicia, you touched on a point that we've talked about very frequently on the show with between Dillon and I and with different guests, but give us some of your keys to success in breaking down that wall, because you mentioned like it's a long time talking with GCs before, those assholes invite you to the party. Like, what are your tips for that? Like, because we have a ton of specialty contractors that listen, and that is a question that always comes up. Like, especially to me personally, like, how do we get to the dance? How do we get to the table to talk with you guys? And I've got my own answers, but I'd be really interested to hear what you guys kind of saw of that process.
I'd say it's a lot of persistence. So definitely, still bidding. We follow up on every bid that we submit, and I will probably say maybe 5% of people get back to us. So it's not even like we're getting a lot of feedback back. I will say it's trying to actually build relationships. So it was a hard transition from the mindset of low bid to now you're just sending a bid off into space, and then you don't get feedback back, and then you'll randomly get a call like 2 months later, like, hey, can you start on Monday? You won this bid. And so that seems to be the hardest transition, is just the persistence needed to get the jobs. But then, our frustration was we are DBE, WBE certified. And so these GCs are looking for contractors like that. We were submitting bids. I feel like half the time they shopped our numbers.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
and so, it's just, I go back to persistence, but it's also the relationship piece too. It's going to the pre-bid meetings and making sure you're giving out your cards of, hey, here's who I am. I'm not just going to give you a number. I want you to kind of know us first.
Know my face. I think that's the biggest thing.
And capabilities too, because that's a big risk. We've subbed out work as well too. And ultimately it's the GC name that's on a lot of stuff. So, I will say persistence, making sure you can back up what you can do, and really trying to build a relationship outside of just sending emails. If I had to pick 3, that's what it would be to actually get in the door. I have a whole nother discussion on how to actually switch from net 30 to paid when paid. But that's a whole nother discussion. But that's what I would say, how to get in the door. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I would say, honestly, I talked to them and said, hey, how can we provide more value to you guys than the next person? And I was just honest. There was a couple people that I dealt with, as far as the GCs that we're working with. And that was like what I focused on. We tried to, we started doing a little bit of paving and stuff too. So we're trying to make it, we're almost like a one-stop shop. Where we encapsulate everything. They don't have to go somewhere else. So the GC looks at the civil package and says, hey, we can call Brex and they will handle the whole thing for us. There isn't submittals from 4 different contractors. It's one contact, and they work with their team. So you're not worrying about the orchestration between different subcontractors. So I think that helps a lot with us. But other than that, I would say, I would kind of back what Alicia says. It's a lot about relationships. So I think when a lot of the GCs actually met me, face to face, or, talked with me on a site or something, I think they got like, hey, this guy's no joke. So, and that was where we kind of got our break, I would say.
I would echo everything you guys just said. We tend to attract specialty contractors and builders who kind of have that mindset, right? That this industry is so much better when it's relationship based and not the low bid bullshit, standing in line on bid day, hoping that you didn't make too many mistakes type crap. Yeah. So it was refreshing to hear you say it, because we talk about this all the time. I'd say it's almost 100% relationship based. And, once you're on our team, like you're our guys, you're our people, right? And we can rely on each other then, and that's how this whole thing becomes fun, right?
Yeah.
But and to your point, AJ, if we don't have subs in my neck of the woods that will do everything. They don't exist today. But if I could hire one firm that was going to push the dirt, put in the pipe, and then also, put in curb and paving, sold. Like, you want to come up to Michigan, we'll start talking differently after the show.
Yeah, that was honestly, I feel like that was probably, I started doing that last year, and that was like I think a lot of them really like were into it then. They're like, hey, these guys, and we have done it, and we've held our end. Honestly, even sometimes we're just giving them a package. Sometimes we're not even like for the asphalt, we're not doing the asphalt ourselves on the hospital project. But for the GC that we're working with there, they know that I've worked with this asphalt contractor. I'm used to working with them, and we kind of present ourselves as a team, and that's enough for them. you know, they're like, hey, listen, we're not bringing two people that don't know how to mesh together.
Right.
You know, so we just provided them as a package. Now everybody will say, oh, you know, you're just putting 10%, whatever you put on your bids. But it's to them, it's more of a cohesion. And, you know, that's kind of what we've been portraying to them and kind of projecting out in our proposals that we can do all of it. So now sometimes we'll try to do all of it ourselves, period. But, you know, I think sometimes it's best to not overextend ourselves, and we'll just use our subcontractors if we know that they're going to get the job done. So
Yeah, I mean, as an owner and as a quote unquote sales guy, like it's real easy for me to go and sell a project. If you know, it doesn't matter who the team is, as long as I know them and I know I can trust them. So whether you're doing it all yourself or you're subbing portions out, I know that at the end of the day, like if shit goes south, I can call Alicia and AJ and say, hey, we got to fix this, and it gets fixed, right? It doesn't matter how many subs you guys have. Everybody's here to make money, and nobody, like in our world anyways, we all need to make money so we can keep doing this. So, you know, if you're taking some of that burden, frankly, off of my team of managing one extra contractor, have at it, man. Let's go.
yeah, that's what we've been doing. I mean, it's been working so far. So, and we're trying to build it. Honestly, that's if we're gonna. I don't know how much more we grow the company personally, like as far as Brex goes, but I definitely am looking to grow the company as far as a subcontractor database. I'd say that's probably our biggest thing we're looking to do. So,
No, it's awesome.
Yeah, and I think that's important to note here is that when you start taking kind of burdens off of other people's plate, right? They're going to need that asphalt contractor, that paving contractor on the job anyway, right? So you can just deal with the paperwork, their payment terms, like all of that, rather than the GC dealing with it, right? That's one less invoice they have to deal with, one less payment term, one less person, one less contract negotiation they've got to deal with on the upfront. You know, there is a lot of value in doing that. So for anybody out there, right, there's ways to team with anybody, right? Like across, you know, and especially it's complementary, right? You're already doing the earthwork, you're already moving the dirt, right? You got to work with them anyway, right? If the ground's not level, they're coming back to you anyway, to like, hey, fix these potholes, right? We're now having to pave over. So like you're a compliment to them and they're a compliment to you. So those teaming opportunities make sense. And it's finding, you know, what are those mesh points that work really well together and for both of you to come, you know, and have a package, right, to present as a unified front. And then one other thing, just going back real quick, that I think also benefited you guys a ton is, especially in doing pipeline work and that stuff, for as long as you have, is one that's high risk, critical infrastructure utility work that most people don't have experience with. So for the years and years that you were doing that type of like very delicate earthwork, that is a big resume builder for all the stuff that you go to after that, right? It's not, I mean, it's a big deal if you crack a sewer pipe, but it's like, or a water pipe, and especially on new installs, it's not that big a deal. But to have to uncover a operational oil pipeline, like that's a high risk, you know, type endeavor to go through, that your operation skills as a, you know, backhoe and excavator operator need to be pretty good to do that. You know, like you can't be cracking a pipe or going 2 inches accidentally. Like that doesn't bode well for anybody in doing that. So like I'll also say, and to your benefit, is doing that type of work is a resume piece that most people don't have. And I think, you know, once you kind of explain that right and showing up on site, you know, because no one's going to get that story of like what you did or like doing these long wall stuff from a price, right? Like from a bid document. They're not going to get that. So in explaining and being able to share your credentials and what makes you different, unique, you know, not to mention all the other value pieces that we've talked about in combining packages, but the skills and unique operational experience that you bring to the table is key. And for that, I want to say for anybody out there, like taking those tough projects, right? Those high risk projects, even though like in some cases you might not have the margins you want on them, they are a heck of a resume builder, right? And to view some of those like high profile projects, right? That again, in whatever that use those as a marketing piece, right? So even if it's not the margin, whatever marketing dollars you put towards them, they're highlight and trophy pieces, if you will, you know, in like a hospital project or some of these other big projects end up being like, hey, you know, we did that type of thing. You know, even if your margins aren't necessarily where you want, winning them, it will help you win all the other projects or a lot of projects down the line.
Yeah, that's what we hope for sure. I think, you know, if there's anything we learned coming out of COVID, because we hit some big bumps coming out of COVID. At the time we were like 95% pipeline. And so if there's anything we found, it's find a way to differentiate, but not completely change your business model. So a lot of the stuff we were doing is very complementary. And so we didn't need to purchase a bunch more things. We didn't have to, you know, completely revamp our business, but it was taking our current skill set and kind of just, you know, going horizontally with it and into other industries. And that's something we've learned is absolutely key. And so when we went to these GCs, I think having the package that AJ's talking about, but, you know, also having those capabilities that, you know, we haul our own equipment, we haul for other people. You know, we paint equipment for ourselves, we paint equipment for other people. And so it's creating these channels of things that we do that we're good at, and then offering that in a package to somebody else as well. And so we really like to differentiate where we can, without getting stretched too thin.
Yeah, I'd say for a long time, for the first, say, 7 years of company, we grew vertically, very vertically. And then the last 3 years, we've grown, like she said, horizontally is the best way to put it. But like she said, we you know, for the trucking, we offered trucking to ourselves, we'd offer to other people. So it was kind of a natural thing for us when we went into the GC market to, okay, well, we'll provide that too. We're already doing it. So yeah, it kind of it just kind of felt hand in hand.
Well, and you're both hustlers, right? I met you both, I think, doing those crew classroom talks last year, and like,
Yep.
as if you don't have enough to do, you know, you're taking time, an hour a week or whatever the hell it was, to go and talk to kids about the trades and all that. Let's talk about some of your other side hustles, because we are coming up on time, but I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about these cows. How'd you get into that, and why'd you pick the hairy ones?
Well, it goes back to a little bit more, a little step before. So in our pipeline work, you know, a lot of our work's in West Virginia, like I mentioned, we were getting nailed for like $10 a bale on straw for reclaiming these right of ways. And so we started thinking, why don't we just grow our own? His grandparents grew up with a farm. So he grew up on a farm. He's like, why don't we just get land? At the time we lived in like a housing development, like I could like reach over and shake my neighbor's hand kind of thing. And, you know, I was like, no. So long story short, we were able to find the land we wanted 10 minutes from our current shop. And like, let's do our own straw. So that's how we started. And then from there, AJ's watching all these YouTube videos on growing your own straw, which quickly led into regenerative agriculture. And so that side of it, and he's like, well, now we need cows. And so for anybody that ever listens to this that knows AJ, they're not going to be surprised, but you know, AJ's the idea guy. So he likes to come to the table with all these ideas, and then I'm the executioner. And so I have to come in and make it work. And it was just like that slippery slope of straw to cows to donkeys, goats, chickens. And then because you have livestock, you need a livestock guardian dog. And so right now we currently have a litter of 9 2-week-old Great Pyrenees puppies. So that's the slippery slope that it went.
Yeah.
Just real quick. So for anybody on the Great Pyrenees, like these are 150, 200-pound dogs, like just to be clear, like these are not
They're
small.
super like super chill, like lovable, like cuddly dogs. But then if there's like coyotes or like, which we have a lot of coyotes on our property, anything like that, like if you want to look up more YouTube stuff, watch a Great Pyrenees take on a pack of coyotes. Like
They're savages.
it's insane. It's
Yeah.
insane, which we've never had to have that happen. I think their barking just keeps
them away.
Keeps them away. But yeah, so
I grew up with Maremas, and so like the cousin, because they're all from Italy, and the Alps is where they're all meant for. So, and the Maremas are more sheepdogs, where the Great Pyrenees are like just bigger, and they're meant for higher altitudes.
Yes.
In the Alps. So.
Yeah, the reason for the Highland cows, honestly, like Alicia said, was regenerative agriculture. So I once we started the farm, I kind of quickly got obsessed with that. I spend my whole life, all day basically destroying the earth and taking topsoil from here and moving dirt to here. Well, then I found this way of farming. They basically can end global warming, and I'm like, well, this is interesting. And how they rebuild the soil, and I just loved it. So I said, well, I have a farm. I don't need all of the farm for the straw. So I found the easiest cow to raise is what so everybody always thought like, oh, you bought the cows because they're like the picture cows that everybody wants to drive by and take pictures of. I bought the cows that I had to do nothing with. So basically, like they give birth, you just show up in the morning and there's a calf there. Like you don't do anything. All you have to do is make sure that they have water. And then really, we don't even give them that much grain. We just give them basically a bunch of different of the elements, minerals that they would need in their diet, and then they're grass fed other than that. So we pretty much do very, very little with them. I mean, they just kind of look cool, and you can some of them you can pet, most of them you can't. But...
Very expensive hobby farm at this point. But always in the back of our mind, we're like, okay, well, we work in the pipeline industry, carbon credits. It's a big discussion on that, and then it's like, maybe we tie that in. So always thinking.
Yeah,
I love it.
If anything, just the last comment on farming. So I grew up raising horn Herefords, did 4-H, did pig, sheep, cattle, all that stuff. So even if it might be an expensive line item, I'm sure ours were. For my parents, as a kid, and you guys having 5 kids, like it's good for them, right? It's a big learning experience, and that's going to be worth every penny that you put into it. For that side of it, even if again, it's not a money maker, but the experience and lessons learned by your kids are going to be well worth everything that you put into it.
You say that. We spent $600 on a goat at a 4-H auction, so I think the kids do okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, like so the county that I live in here in California, and I've lived all over the US, but like our show and sale auction, like pigs, the like floor price effectively for them is like $8 a pound. Cattle are going for 5-6, upwards of like 25, I think, for our grand champion cows. So like our auction is like absolutely insane. A pair of turkeys is like $1,500 or whatever. So like totally crazy. Granted, like most auctions, like none of that happens, right? Pigs are like $3-4 a pound for the kids, which translates to whatever, 6-7 $1,000. So just yeah, it's great. Like the kids, the way that I always frame it, right? Like, why didn't I do Boy Scouts? Well, I did 4-H and I made money,
Yeah, no, we've talked about it. We've actually done our first batch of meat chickens not that long ago, and so it's getting the kids involved. Our oldest are 9. We have twins that are oldest, and so it's my daughter's already trying to negotiate some of the profit from these puppies. So I think they'll be well rounded in 4-H for sure.
Well, that's awesome. We do chickens here too, and it's a lot of fun. We haven't forayed into cattle yet, and I'm gonna have to call in sick the rest of the week because I just Googled these dogs. You mean to tell me these fluffy, cute little things are coyote killers? I'm not leaving YouTube for like a week.
Look it up. It's crazy. It's wild.
A Great Pyrenees will take down a mountain lion.
Yeah, easily.
Like, I mean, again, they're like mad on us. Like they're waist high. Like these are like their back is waist high, and then they're 150 to 2. Like the big males would be like 200 pounds.
Oh, Dylan,
They
you're gonna
make
have to
it
call. You're gonna have to call my wife and tell her where I am because I'm not leaving HQ2. I'm logging into YouTube right now and I'm hooked. between
And then for
dogs
anyone
and mining.
listening, we have puppies, so you know, depending when this episode goes out,
Yeah.
they'll be ready at Halloween. So
Awesome, guys. Where can people find you?
So we are Brex Enterprises on Instagram. We didn't get to really talk about it, but I'm also as Boss Side Hustle on Instagram. So that's where I mentor other contractors, and he's Dancing Dirt Man. So you'll be able to find him dancing on his channel.
Awesome. Well, I think we'll have to have you guys back if you want to, because I did want to get more into your side hustles, but we're up against time, and I think that'd be a good follow-up show.
Yeah, absolutely. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you guys for coming on, and it's been a pleasure having this chat.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you,
Thank you.
guys.
Awesome. Thank you guys. And for everybody listening, that's going to be this episode of the Construction Corner podcast. Until next time.